So, welcome to my Senior to Seniors podcast, where we dive into stories of seniors, explore their unique experiences, discuss the real issues facing seniors today, and introduce you to those assisting seniors in their senior journey. I have the privilege today to talk with some of the most interesting people impacting the senior community. And today, I actually have my doctor, my chiropractor. And I couldn't think of anybody that I would rather interview for this show and introduce seniors to, both locally and for those seniors who are watching this show outside of North Texas, giving them information that hopefully will help them. So my guest is Dr. Bryan Stephens, and I'll just read a little bit about Bryan so you have an idea of who he is and what the heck this guy does. So he joined Texas Chiro Health in 2016 in the Ellen, Texas location, and then relocated to the Mckinney location in 2018, where he's a senior partner at the Stonebridge location in Mckinney. He enjoys helping the community become healthier through education on eating well, moving well, and thinking well in order to limit the stresses often placed on their bodies through our daily lifestyle choices. Dr. Bryan obtained his doctorate degree in chiropractic from Parker University in 2013 after completing his undergraduate degree in biology with a minor in psychology from Texas A&M University. He firmly believes that being able to do what you love is of the greatest importance in our lives. And doing that stems from our ability to keep moving and be fully active throughout our entire lives. So, Doc, welcome to my podcast.
Thanks, Jim.
So, let me just, this is not about me, but you and I met about a year and a half ago. I came to you with intense pain in my back, my lower back. Uh, and so I came to you because I looked at a number of chiropractors in our area, and you seem to be the most serious about my overall health, not just maybe doing an adjustment to my back, which surely it needed, but it was going beyond there. So, unbeknownst to me, when I got to you, you gave me what is called a spinal assessment, where you looked at my back, took x-rays, and really, rather than just trying to fix me in one attempt or several attempts, you looked at the real issue and tried to resolve how we can get it handled and how I can be healthier. And what another thing that brought me to you was that you have a unique way to market what you do to bring patients in, where for $39 you will do the full assessment. That's pretty unique. Takes quite a while for you to do. So this is not an in out and gone. It's a real assessment that looks at the issues that you're facing. That I have mine right next to me. Sometimes I hate looking at it because I was in such bad shape when I came in, but I think I'm improving a bit. Talk about how patients can come to you and experience you to get an assessment and learn more about their health.
Gotcha. So when I'll kind of take you through what a patient experiences on their first day. Typically, a patient comes in, and let's face it, 99% of people that come in to see a chiropractor, they're looking to get out of pain because chiropractic is great at getting people out of pain. The problem is chiropractic, just like everything else out there, can be just a Band-Aid. If all you're doing is trying to do adjustments and then get the pain to go away, and then later on you find it comes back. If you don't actually get the problem taken care of, then that pain's going to be an on again, off again type of thing. So what I do is a full assessment, meaning I'm looking at ranges of motion, I'm looking at balance, I'm looking at strength, I'm looking at what stresses are you under, what nutrition are you taking, what's your diet like. because those are all things that impact the entire body. If stress is up, if inflammation is up from poor nutrition, lack of movement, improper movement, then the body's going to break down. It's going to get to a point where it's in pain. Pain is, I tell patients this, pain is one of the last things to show up, and it's one of the first things to go away. So if you get it to where the pain is just gone, then you haven't completely stabilized everything. So once I have a chance to take a look at a functional assessment, take a history, go through x-rays with patients, I bring them back the next day. So that way I can go over everything. I can show them their assessment, show them their x-rays, answer any questions they have, and let them know what the actual cause is and what it takes to get rid of the cause. So the pain isn't just gone, it's making it to where they're not getting back. Essentially, pain going away should be a side effect of getting healthy, not just the point of getting rid of a symptom.
Right, right. So when I come to you, tell me, the initial costs and so forth to work with you with the
Gotcha. So our initial cost, and this is true of all of our offices, we do a $39 donation to different charities. Right now we're working with Toys for Tots, but we do about 7 or 8 different charities throughout the year. And our focus is if we can then help out a charity and make it to where people can get the information, and we don't take any of the cost on our own. We sit there and we pass it along, and that way we can share the information. And then from there, what you decide to do with it, it's always up to the patient. But for that $39, it makes it to where there's a lot that goes into it. Yeah. It's really helpful, but we still get to kind of support the things that we like to.
Yeah, well, and you really can't attack the issue unless you've done something like that, where you've really looked deep. And it, for me, it was pretty humbling going through all the things, a little bit scary as well, looking at balance, looking at strength. So I came in for, basically pain, get rid of this pain, but found out the causes of why I had the pain. And so, we're tackling that now. And so behind you, you got the Hilton's Law poster, Keep Calm. And you talk about Hilton's Law, and it seems to be basically the mission statement of your practice, if I'm correct.
It's more than that. It's the whole reason why chiropractic as a profession works. So Hilton's Law was discovered by Dr. John Hilton back in 1862. He was an MD and kind of called the father of physical therapy. And what he found is the same nerve that goes through the joint. So I've got my elbow here. That nerve that comes through here goes to the muscles, the tendons, the ligaments, the sensation of the skin above it. Everything around that joint is innervated by that same nerve. So if that joint can't move, swelling builds up. Now that nerve is impacted. That's where we start getting the pain. Over time, that joint starts to degenerate because that swelling has stayed there for such a long period of time. It's why we start to lose that range of motion, where a lot of our osteoarthritis actually starts coming from. But if we can get that range of motion restored back to the joint, so adding motion back in, full range of motion with resistance, every joint, every day, you can keep it to where your body's not just staying out of pain, but it's lowering how fast it's degenerating as well.
Yeah. And of course, degeneration is a huge issue, not only for everyone, but especially for seniors, right?
Yes.
Especially for seniors. And so you mentioned inflammation. So do you think that's the number one issue? Do you think with humans, with all of us?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you start looking at the chronic lifestyle killers, so heart disease, stroke, diabetes, cancer, obesity, these are all things that develop from us having chronic inflammation, from poor diet, from poor movement, from high levels of stress that we're not managing. It always comes back to how we're eating, how we're moving, how we're managing those stresses. When those stresses are off and we've got more inflammation throughout our body, not only do we get poor health, but over time that starts to break the body down, which is where pain comes from. Pain and inflammation go hand in hand.
Yeah.
We can lower the inflammation, we can lower the pain. But in that process, if you can lower that chronic inflammation, now you're making changes to overall lifestyle. You're lowering your risk of cardiovascular disease, you're lowering your risk of stroke, of cancer. And it comes not just from adjustments. I mean, there's so much more to just getting a joint to move. So part of what I look at with patients when they're coming in is how do we work on getting the joints moving? So that's one piece of the puzzle. How do we work on getting the muscles fixed? So that way we're kind of strengthening everything. And then how do we make a lot of curve correction or structural correction to everything? If we can do that, then it makes it to where it's a much longer lasting change and outcome. And along the way, we start looking at nutrition. So adding in like essential nutrients, vitamin D3, omega-3s, probiotics. I start with those with all my patients just because they're the ones research shows we will not be able to get enough of them from our normal diet. And they're essential, meaning our body has to have them. We don't create them in the amounts that we need. For us to try and, let me put it this way, for us to try and get the amount of omega-3s we need, we're looking at 14 cans of wild-caught sardines every single day. For the amount of probiotics, it's 4 jars of sauerkraut every single day. I don't know anybody that's wanting to do that. So there are some supplements that we work with, but as we can get those higher, the body actually now has a chance to clean up the blood, get the inflammation down from the inside at the same time as we're doing all the work from the outside. That means that not only are people getting healthier, but I've seen a lot of changes to blood work. I've seen people come off thyroid medication, seen people come off diabetes medication. It's really exciting when we get to the point of people being out of pain to a point where we can focus on overall health after that.
Sure. So what you've seen over, a number of years, Doc, with seniors, what have you seen as, if there is a major issue that seniors all face? I know we're all different because in a community, I live in a senior community, and we come in all shapes and sizes by the population. The age group is not real diversified. It's people 62 and over.
Mhm.
But so I see, as they see me, I see it all. I see skinny, fat, tall, skinny, all of that. But what do you see if there is something? Because when I've been in your place of business, I see all types of people, and I've written it down, but I don't find it. But I know you work on seniors, and you work on people that job related injuries. You work on
Mhm.
the whole gamut that people are looking at. But with senior issues, what if there is a main big issue? What would that be?
Um, I would say with most of my seniors, it's not just one issue, it's more of a combination of two. Typically, most of my seniors, it's going to be a focus on getting them walking or moving properly again. There's a lot of inactivity that I've seen create a lot of problems with health with most of the seniors that come through. And then the other one would be the nutrition. There's a lot of comfort foods that, while they might taste good, they're not doing any favors for anybody at that point. And once most of my seniors have gotten to a point, they're like, oh, I can eat anything I want, it doesn't matter anymore. That's not true. I mean, it still creates inflammation, which then creates a lot of pain. Stress plays into it. I've seen seniors come in very highly stressed, just like the rest of the population. But I've also seen majority of my seniors come in to where the stresses aren't bothering them quite as much at that point. But there are still stresses that can come up, whether it's health related, whether it's, I mean, there's, you name it, anything that's out there can create a stress. And when I'm talking stress, it's not just the immediate stress, it's how we perceive that stress. If you've got it to where the stress is there and you think that there's no way out of it, that's what's going to create that chronic stress, that high level of cortisol, which is a stress hormone and creates more of the swelling I was talking about. Yeah, overall, it's just still chronic inflammation. At the end of the day, chronic inflammation is probably the number one thing I would say is affecting not just seniors, but everybody else. It's just what is creating that chronic inflammation. That's what's going to change from person to person.
Yeah. One of the questions I know I had, because, I've been a patient of yours for over a year, and pretty intense for the first month or so every day seeing you. And not only just having you make adjustments to my back and my neck, but actually doing some physical therapy. I don't know if that's the correct term. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it wasn't coming in, having an adjustment and leaving. It was coming in and spending time with you and with the other doctors that you have with you. So that was a little bit different. But one of the questions I had was, are there any side effects with going to a chiropractor? What kind of side effects do people have?
I would say side effects. initially. So that daily you were talking about, typically it's only for about 2 weeks, and then we're able to drop it down from there. Within those 2 weeks, that's when you'll notice kind of an increase in soreness at times. And it's not with everybody, but as we're trying to make those initial changes, there's a lot of things that have been building up and a lot of habits that we're having to work through at that time. So a lot of muscle tension, a lot of toxins that have built up. And as your body's working through that, you can notice some soreness. Usually it's within kind of that first 4 to 10 visits, and that soreness drops down dramatically. And then we're able to work on that stabilization phase of everything.
Yeah. So usually not long term, and it just doesn't linger for a long time. Another question, does chiropractic, does it hurt?
Chiropractic itself, so it's kind of a mixed question on that one. The initial adjustments, like starting off, they can be sore, it can be tender. I mean, you've had years upon years upon years to accumulate all these effects, and we're trying to make changes in about a 2-month period. So you get some soreness, you can have some aches initially, but it's short lasting as we're going through that. Then by the end, typically patients that I've had that tell me that it's sore on those first couple of visits start looking forward to it afterwards because of how good they're feeling by the end.
Yeah, yeah. So take us through a patient. I don't have the chart in front of me, but I'm sure you know it by heart. I'm basically on maintenance right now, if I understand what you're doing with me, how we're working together. I think there's like 5. I can visualize the signs that you have where you
Can you see the sign behind me?
I see, yeah, the road to wellness.
Here.
Yeah, I can see it.
There we go. Yep.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, of course. So that road to wellness, when patients come in, they're starting off in pain. So what we've got to work on is take a look at, all right, what is that cause of pain? So that's the assessment I was telling you about beforehand. And then when we sit down and we're working through and saying, all right, here's where the cause is, here's what we're going to be working on for everything, here's the adjustments we'll be doing, here's the exercises we're going to do. We've got to work on curve correction as well. That first 2 weeks we were talking about where you're kind of getting out of pain, that is what we call our corrective 1 phase. It's that kind of initial, all right, let's get out of pain. Once the pain is gone, now we can focus on stability. That's corrective 2. So from there, it's working on more adjustments, but still strengthening up the exercises. Strengthening up the muscles by increasing the exercises, ramping up resistance, changing up the type of exercises we're doing. And then we do assessments halfway through, and then again at the end of what's called the acute phase, as you're completely stabilized, everything is good to go. And I know we're different than other chiropractors out there. We're going to re-x-ray afterwards, so you can actually see that structural change from day 1 to the end of the acute care, and then we can focus on maintaining. And there's a period of time in between stabilizing and maintaining as your body's trying to revert to what's called homeostasis, which is how we essentially balance out with the environment. Once your body flips that switch and goes back to homeostasis, then you're in that last phase of wellness. So it takes some time of essentially convincing your body you're going to keep up with what got you out of pain initially. And then from there, once you've convinced your body, then you can go back to that homeostasis. Everything we do, we're going to base it on research as well. So kind of that first acute phase, we're looking at a study called Maltby et al. There's 2 different studies, and they're based off randomized controlled trials. One of them being for the neck and upper back. And when you start looking at the averages of what it takes to stabilize, and then the same thing for the low back. And so both of them getting out of pain, 6 to 10 visits on average. And then neck, upper back, we're looking at at 24 visits being the average, and then low back being 28 visits. And that's within about a 2-month window.
Yeah.
Then after that 2 months, then you start looking at a study called Senna et al. Senna Macaulay, sorry. And what they do is they showed that it can take up to 10 months for your body to then revert to that level of homeostasis. And by then it's much easier. Most patients you're looking at 2 times a month. So it's much, much easier. You essentially go from putting on braces to now you're brushing your teeth.
Right. And that's one of the things that attracted me or kept me coming is the research that you showed, that you weren't just doing whatever. What you were doing was a process, and it was researched, and it's worked for other people. And so one of the things we've covered some things here, but one of many articles that I have are 8 ways that a chiropractor and what the care, how it can benefit seniors, since we're talking mostly about seniors here. So for those seniors listening, I think the simple thing we can talk about are these 8 care benefits that a chiropractor can have. And we talked about them, but I just want to point them out. First of all, it reduces pain. There's no doubt about that. Number 2, increases range of motion. Number 3, improves balance and coordination. Number 4, it enhances overall quality of life and well-being. Number 5, it boosts immunity. Number 6, it decreases your risk of joint degeneration, which I would think is a big issue for seniors. Number 7, it improves sleep quality. There's no doubt. I mean, before I came to you, I don't think I could sleep through the night. I had to get up several times, and I still have, issues with sleeping, but it's being addressed and it's much better. And number 8, it helps manage chronic conditions. So I just wanted to point that out. I think you've talked about all of those things in what we've spoken about today, but it's important to know you're so much more than just a doc that makes the adjustment. So tell me, what's the greatest lesson you've learned in the 8 years you graduated in 2013, 11 years that you've been a chiropractor? What is the greatest lesson you've learned that could tell us more about you and what you've seen?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I know it is. I know and it can be hard. And by the way, we didn't go through these questions before we did this today. Doc and I are just having a conversation, but what might be the greatest lesson that you've learned?
Honestly, one of the greatest lessons I've learned is when it comes to somebody's health, it's going to be a puzzle. It's not just cookie cutter for everything. Initially starting out, it was trying to go, okay, this is what I've got to do. If each person does the same thing, they're going to get better. That's not how real life works. So finding out what piece of the puzzle do we need to look at? What does actual research say needs to be taken care of? And then I would say probably one of the biggest things I've learned was also kind of how to find my own voice in doing what I do, how to have more of like an authentic conversation, kind of like what we're doing here, rather than just trying to feel like I was standing on a pedestal. It's like, I know what the answers are, but I have learned over the time that it's not me that wants somebody to get better. They have to want to get better, and I can help them along the way. Whatever their goals are, then I'll help them meet that goal. It's just trying to meet a person for where they are, what they're wanting, and then how I can help.
Great. So tell me, are you available for urgent care? If I've never had an issue where I had to call you and say, oh my God, I'm in trouble. Can you help me? Is that something you see often or ever?
Yes, I do. There's a reason I put my cell number on my business card, is because I want my patients to have access. If something happens, even if I'm not in town, I can try and find somebody nearby that can help them, or I can help walk them through stretches. I can think of many times where I've had a patient call or text, and if I was gone, it doesn't take long to respond and be like, hey, let's try this. Let me know how it works. I remember one time in particular, a patient was out of town, and I ended up FaceTiming them, trying to show them how to tape up their shoulder. I think they were skiing and had fallen or something. I don't remember what the exact injury was, but I was trying to tape them and went, all right, so you're going to do this. What day do you get back? And they told me what the date was. Like, fantastic. I'll see you the next day after that. And They came in, so we were able to get them some care after that.
Yeah.
But yes, I like being somebody that the community can go to when they've got health, when they've got questions, when pretty much anything that goes on with it.
Yeah. Interesting. So I think I'm correct. You have a team of 8 doctors. Is that correct?
That sounds right.
8 doctors, and
yes,
in basically 2 cities. You're in Minnesota and Texas, or is it 8 in Texas?
So it's two cities, but there's three locations. So there's one kind of North Dallas up here in McKinney where I am. We
Okay.
have one that's in Lakewood and then one that's in Minneapolis.
Okay. All right. Great. So tell me, I know that your team is very collaborative. You work together, you go to places together. Um, Tell me what is happening and what do you see that changes for your practice? What's in your future?
Ooh, yeah. In our future, I would say our current goal is trying to find another doc that's going to fit to bring into at least our office. I know we're looking to expand for another doc in pretty much all the offices. Looking to add another couple of clinics and other offices as we go forward. It's just trying to make sure we find the right person at the right time as we're going through it. That's probably the biggest thing. I know I'm also part of an internship program with the chiropractic school, Parker, that you mentioned earlier. And
Located in Dallas, correct?
located in Dallas. So both the offices in Dallas are, and the Minneapolis one, I forget which school that they're associated with, but they also have interns, and it's really cool getting to a point where we can see and help these brand new docs coming out of school and kind of show them what it's like in the real world and show them what real healthcare is like, not just kind of everything within that school bubble as well.
Yeah. Well, culture is huge, for any company, for any office. And, just what I can see from coming into your office, you have a very healthy culture. If I were coaching on, what you could do better in your business or whatever, the culture is wonderful from the front desk all the way through people that help take you through the assessment, and people that are there all the time. And you can see it in your practice when, the docs, even the front desk, are working with the people that come in because you have a very diverse audience, if you will, a very diverse client base. And so you can see how well everybody collaborates and works together. So just a couple more questions. So what would be your best advice for seniors today? What one piece of advice would you give to seniors who are watching this?
Uh, that's actually kind of an easy one because I figured this question was going to be asked, and I was trying to think and put some thought into it. The probably the number one thing I would say is go out, and if you can do a 20-minute walk every single day, just 20 minutes. I'm not saying go out there and sprint, anything like that. Just enough to where you can feel like you're not fully out of breath. You can't sing, but you can have a conversation.
Hmm.
But if you can do that every day, you start cutting down your risk of chronic disease immensely. You make some other changes as far as nutrition, not smoking, and suddenly those changes go way up. You can find that you're lowering your risk even higher.
Yeah.
So that's probably the number one is just trying to get up and start walking. If you can do that, awesome. If you're having pain walking, then get it checked out.
Yeah. Yeah. So last question. So how would your closest friends describe you?
Ooh. Um, my closest friends would probably describe me as I hear kind a lot. Um, One of the things that I've struggled with in the past, and it's still something that comes up, is having almost too much of a pleasing nature, like wanting to do everything I can to help the person in front of me, almost at my own detriment at times.
Yeah.
And so that's one where I've been working on quite a bit. So as it has, I've found a lot more peace with it. And I think they actually, I know because some of my closest friends have seen the peace that I've had and a lot more of kind of the confidence that has come from that as well. So I'd probably say those main things to it and kind of
Yeah.
the kind, peace, confidence that's gone into it.
Yeah. Um, so what's the one last thing? What one thing did I didn't ask you that I should have?
Oh, what's one thing you didn't ask me?
Anything that you
Um,
wanted to talk about, and it's really important that I should have been able to uncover to ask, but I think
Actually, there is one thing because I see this a lot, and unfortunately, when I'm talking to different patients about nutrition, and we start talking about, oh, okay, any sort of supplement that you can pick up at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, any of the big stores. Most of those are actually harming you, and they're putting more inflammation into your body, and they're not giving any sort of relief to it. It actually makes you worse. There's only a couple good ones I've seen as far as like omegas or vitamin D or probiotics. And if there's ever questions, I'm always happy to answer just with like a picture of what somebody is taking a glance at it. And so that way I can tell them, yep, this is a good one, or no, throw that one away. Let's get you set up with something else. It's just trying to find the right thing to keep the inflammation down.
Well, you've done that for me, and you have those important ones available at your practice for people as well. And it's just part of the regimen, right? That
Yep.
you put.
It is. I'd say the best brand I've seen for those, it's a brand called Innate Choice. But that's the one that we use here in the clinic as well.
Well, Doc, I appreciate the time you're spending with me today. And I think people who will listen to this podcast and view it on YouTube will appreciate it as well. And so I'm appreciative to you. You're a great doctor.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you too, Jim.
Yeah. And so thank you so much. And how can people reach you if they want to talk to you?
You can find our website, texaschirihealth.com. You can email me. My personal email through the office is drb@txchealth.com. I know we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram as well. Just any way that you want to reach out, and if you've got questions, we can answer them. Even if you're not around us and you need help finding a chiropractor, we can at least ask around and try and find you some good care.
Yeah. Well, in the show notes, I will have some of that information as well in case somebody didn't get it while we talked about it. So, Doc, today it's a Friday. I hope you have a great weekend with your family.
And well, thank you. You too, Jim.
I'll see you in a week.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much.
Uh-huh.
Bye-bye.
Bye.